What up, Mutilators? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we'll be discussing the 5 most common mistakes that I see people make when embarking on their Moo adventure. These are some that I've made myself, and these that are some that I've witnessed other people making. So stay tuned for that, and let's get into it. Starting us off strong with number 1 is players leveling too quickly, which is very common a curse of the new player, because you just logged in, create your first character, and you want to push those levels as quickly as possible, which is understandable. Who doesn't want to grow fast? And there are some characters that handle this way better than others. For example, the Grow Lancer, the White Wizard, and the Dark Lord will queue up and spit out any early game content you throw their way. They are just that strong. Where other characters such as the Dark Wizard, Dark Knight, and the Elf might struggle a little bit. I myself fell victim to this trap early on in my Moo journey, where I had a White Wizard that I started, found out he was extremely strong, just kept on buying XP packs and just pushing levels as fast as I could. However, my gear could not keep up with the progress I was making, and eventually I hit a very big wall, and that wall called Nixie's Lake. Nixie's, as opposed to Feria, is no joke. The gear required, Feria in and of itself is a big step up from the previous maps that you're used to. However, when it comes to Nixie's, it's a whole different level. I remember championing Feria without any issues with my White Wizard, and then as soon as I reached level 630, I thought to myself, okay, now time for Nixie's. I ran into Nixie's all confident, all optimistic that this is just another map that my White Wizard will take in his stride. Unfortunately, Nixie's had other plans. Kicked me out as if I haven't paid rent in 3 months. And that optimism slowly turned to frustration as I realized that even though I was able to access the map, I wasn't able to survive there, let alone thrive there. It wasn't until I went back to the drawing board, upgraded every single piece of equipment that I had. I needed new wings, I needed a new set, I needed a new weapon, and only after acquiring all those items was I able to enter Nixie and dominate the map. But through that experience, it taught me a very valuable lesson, and I think this is one that many seasoned players of Moo understand, that there are times of leveling and times of gearing up. And now my approach has shifted from chasing levels to chasing gear. So leading us to number 2 of common mistakes that players make, especially early on, is character selection. It's very tempting to log in, especially for new players, and go with what they remember from back in the day. However, as mentioned previously, these characters aren't as strong as they once were. And many characters fall into a trap of starting these characters for pure nostalgic purposes, and are frustrated and burnt out when they're not making the progress that they're expecting to see. Character selection plays a very important role in your Moo adventure, and this can change over time, as the character you've started with might not be the characters that you end up with. And this is perfectly fine, because the longer you play the game, the more you realize and the more you learn about your play style and the way that you like to tackle the maps ahead. And so you build yourself a team around that will support those goals. Another mistake I see that also falls under character selection is not selecting certain characters. For example, I see many people not creating supports early on in the game. Supports are crucial to your leveling and farming capabilities, as they're the ones that will keep you alive most of the time and give you the extra help and assistance that you need in increasing your attack and defense, which means you'll be able to survive and thrive a lot easier as you're moving up through the maps into higher content. If I had to start again from scratch now, I would definitely be making at the very least an energy elf alongside my main killer. The benefits of having an energy elf cannot be understated, especially in the early levels of the game, and she becomes indispensable as you head into Feria and Nixies and beyond. From level 800 onwards, an agility soul master becomes not a nice to have, but a must have, as the soul barrier that he creates will keep you and your party alive for many hours and days to come. If you're just starting out, my best advice is pick a character to learn and understand the game. And once you understand your playstyle, and once you understand what type of characters you prefer, whether they be melee or wizard characters, you can then use that information to create your ideal party setup, which you can then run together as you conquer every single map that you progress into. So leading up to the third common mistake that I see many people making, especially early on, is improper stat allocation. Many new players, and even those that have been playing for a while that are starting a new character, are sometimes unaware of the proper placement of stat points, which could lead to quite a bit of frustration down the road when you realize that you've put too many points in a certain stat and not enough in another, which could also lead to a costly experience of having to buy decrease routes from the Webzen store in order to get all your stats reduced so that you can allocate them into the right selection. As an example, here we have my Grow Lancer, which you can see up to 500 points pretty much in strength, and the rest are all placed in agility. You'll notice that there are no stat points in stamina and energy, as this is an agility Grow Lancer and it doesn't need any points in those stats in order to grow stronger. Contrast that with my Magic Gladiator, which you can see there's a lot more points in strength here, fair amount in agility, and some in energy as well. So this allows him to reach the level gaps that I'm wanting him to reach, and also be able to hit harder as he scales with the stats that have been allocated. So the final one for good measure, here we have my Energy Elf. As you can see, very little strength, very little agility, pretty much just enough to use her set and her gear, and the rest has all been placed in energy. There's nothing in stamina, everything goes straight into agility, which leads us into the next part of improper allocation, and that would be for your 400 tree as well. So as you can see, all the points here have been allocated into the areas that are of greatest benefit to her, mainly being her buffs. So all her buffs are maxed out here. Got a little bit of defense. All these stat points here have been maxed out to increase the numbers that we have here. And then also, as you can see, she has max HP on both of these allocated as well. As you level up and you move away from stat allocation into master trees, it becomes even more important to allocate the points in the right places, as this will kind of determine your overall build. And mistakes at this level can get even more costly, because in order to reset these, you've got one of two options: either buy a Scroll of Grey Oblivion, which will set you back a fair amount of bless per time, or buy it from the Webzen store, which will cost you real money to set it right. It's really important that you work on these stats, you get them to as close to perfect as you can. Each one has their own build preferences, and each one has their own idea of the character that they're playing. The no two trees are going to be exactly the same, as different people focus on different things. As you can see on my Grow Lancer, I don't have anything in the shield defense or wing defense here, as it doesn't need it, because he's mainly in a party with an EE and ASM, so he doesn't really need defense as much, but everything else in terms of double damage, ignore, all of that, that's been placed to maximum. And then also the 800 tree, skill advancement tree. This is another one where if things go wrong, it could be very costly for you, whether it be selecting the right debuff or putting these points in the wrong order. Once again, if you see, I don't have any defense in here at the moment. I'm more focusing on having higher attack because, like I said, my Grow Lancer is in a party with an Energy Elf and Agility SM. So defense isn't crucial. When starting a new build, it's important to do research on it, speak to people, watch videos on that build, find out how the stats are allocated in order to prevent the headache of improper stat allocation, which down the road will only cost you blessed or, in most cases, real money to rectify. So we're now going into the fourth common mistake that I see players making, especially the newer ones, and that is not prioritizing Zen. I know Zen doesn't have much value in game, however, everything runs with Zen. Your helper runs with Zen, your items are repaired with Zen, and if you don't keep an eye on your Zen, you might just come back to your PC after an evening of AFK, only to find that your characters are in the safe zone because they've run out of Zen and can't run their helpers or repair their gear. As a new player starting out, you might be wondering what is the best and most efficient way to farm Zen. That is with the use of the help. In your helper settings, if you go to obtaining, you have an option here to collect all the Zen that's dropped by the mobs that you're slaying. Another very good way that people use is using the helper to acquire skills like parchments, scrolls, and orbs. These can be sold to NPCs for quite a bit of Zen, and you'll quickly find yourself more Zen than you know what to do with. Whether you obtain all the scrolls and orbs that drop is up to you. If you want to save space in your inventory and also prolong your farming time, you can just collect orbs on their own, which you can then go and sell to an NPC for Zen. So you'll see here that there are all of these for a good amount of Zen, and that way you'll be sure you never run out of Zen on your character. In order for your character to pick up all the scrolls and orbs automatically, all you have to do is go to your helper and add an extra item. So we're going to go parchment, we're going to add that, we're going to add scroll, and I like to add, instead of adding orb, I just add RB and F. The reason I do that is because there are items such as royal orbs which are no good to us, and if we just put the word orb in, it'll pick up everything with the word orb in it. But if I put in the OR from orb and of, we'll focus on only picking up items that have that sequence of letters in the name. So I add OR, OF, and that ensures that I'm only picking up what I want to pick up. Save that and let it run, and soon enough your inventory will be full of items to sell to NPC for Zen. Now, once you get to a little bit of a higher level, you're going to want to invest in Zen sets for your characters. This is my Dark Lord, who's currently level 1068, and he has one job and one job only. That is to farm Zen in Deep Dungeon. He's able to do so effectively because, as you can see, every item in his set is a Zen collection item. So every item increases the amount of Zen he obtains, and all of these then get added together to give you a total bonus of Zen that he give you a total amount of Zen that he acquires when farming. Also, a little while back, an event where you could land a moon that also increases the amount of Zen that you get from monsters. So it only made sense that I get him one of those moons as well. If we go to his stats, you'll be able to scroll down here on the expanded tab and see that his Zen obtaining rate is 308%. So in the name of science, let's remove every Zen item that he's got, including his rings and including the moon that he has. We go back to our stats, you can see that his Zen obtain rate is 0 at the moment. And currently, he's achieving a Zen rate, or Zen drop, should we say, of 25,000. Again, 25,000, 25,000. So he's achieving 25,000 Zen every time a monster drops Zen. Let's put all these items back again. Now currently he's achieving 103,000. So we have pretty much quadrupled the amount of Zen we're dropping at a time, which makes it really effective and really efficient to farm Zen. And all I do is, as this fills up, I just go over to my store character, dump everything there, and it gets distributed from there. So it's highly recommended that at some point you create yourself a character dedicated to farming Zen, as your party will need Zen to continue farming and leveling throughout the game. And with that, we've come to the fifth and final mistake that I see new players making. And this one isn't as much associated to character selection or stat allocation, but it's one that can greatly reduce the risk of falling into any of the previous mistakes mentioned in this video, and that is community. What do I mean by community? Well, when I first started out, I was just looking to grind, looking to get my levels, my characters as high as I possibly could without really engaging with the wider community in the server. It wasn't until a few months after I started my journey that I saw the frequent ad for a guild and just thought to myself, why not? Why not be a part of something bigger and get to know other people playing this game? And nothing has influenced my Mu journey more than joining a guild has. Not only did I find others like me who are returning to Mu after decades away, but also many people that have way more knowledge and experience in this game than I did. And with all the combined knowledge and experience that a guild provides, I was able to optimize my classes, select the right classes for my playstyle, and build them accordingly. Not only was knowledge traded freely, but items as well a lot of times. And leveling parties became a breeze to find. And a guild can take many forms. While some players prefer the PvE side of things, there are others out there that just want to dominate in the PvP sector, and I can guarantee you that in your server there are guilds that cater to both. Whichever route you choose to go down, just be sure to find an active guild with a buzzing Discord where you can engage with other players, share knowledge and experience, and team up to take on the rest of the server. Whether that be in PvE or PvP, I believe so strongly in the community aspect of Mu that I've created my own Mutilation Discord server where you're free to come and hang out, find out information about builds and gear, and meet others just like yourself who are enjoying this wonderful game after decades away. We would also like to encourage and help you find a guild in your server that's right for you, whether that be low-level PvE builds or high-level PvP content. If you're a guild master in any other servers looking for more people to join your guild, please reach out to us and we'll place an ad in our guild section where other like-minded players in your server can find you and request to join your guild. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. I hope you found it informative and that it motivates you to take your Mu game to the next level. Until next time, ciao for now.